Hey everybody, what is going on? It's Voodoo 51292, and welcome to another one of my honest and thorough game reviews. And tonight I'll be doing my first review of a game that is an older game. And when I say older, it was actually released 5 years ago in 2007, but I finally have gotten around to playing the game and finally beat it tonight. And very popular game. And the game that we are reviewing tonight, as you can see by the title, is Mass Effect, the very first Mass Effect. And some people may be wondering, why review the game now? It's 5 years old, Mass Effect 3 was just released. Why do a review of the game? And really, there's two reasons I'm doing it. A, because there probably are some people, at least, who have an Xbox 360 and never have played Mass Effect, any of the games before, never thought it was their cup of tea, but since Mass Effect 3 has come out, there's probably some people who may have gotten interested in the series and may be interested in starting the series through Mass Effect. And, they may be wondering if it's their cup of tea or if they should pick up the first game. And the second reason is because just to give people my thoughts on the game, because it is obviously one of the most popular franchises. And I didn't do footage of it. I didn't do a playthrough of it on my channel, so people may be wondering what did I think of the first Mass Effect. So really the review has dual purpose. And the first thing I would say is if you are considering playing Mass Effect 3, you've got to play them all. You have to start off with this game to understand what's happening, what's going on. You can't just jump into Mass Effect 3, I don't think, because you won't understand what the hell is happening. And, there's a lot of reasons to start with this game, but let's go ahead and start reviewing it like I normally do for all of my games, and set it up. So Mass Effect is basically the story of Commander Shepard, and there's a lot of plot here, so obviously I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm going to try to condense it as much as I can. Basically, there is a group of soldiers, or not soldiers, but a group of individuals within the galaxy. This game takes place in the Milky Way galaxy through many different clusters of planets and solar systems and things like that. And there's this league in the galaxy called the Spectres. And basically they're almost, I guess you could compare them to like Jedis, where they're basically a group of highly specialized, well, I guess they are soldiers and politicians who basically, they're very good at what they do, and they kind of live above the law. I mean, they can pretty much take whatever means necessary to accomplish their goal, kind of like Jedis. Even though Jedis kind of have a code and the Spectres really don't, as long as they get the job done, they don't really care how it gets done. And bottom line is, one of these Spectres in the game goes rogue, and you don't know why, but he's gone rogue, and eventually, as Commander Shepard, it is your job to catch him. His name is Saren, the rogue Spectre, and stop him from what he's doing. And basically, through the game, you find out what he's doing, and it involves these creatures called the Reapers, who basically are these race of sentient machines who are very powerful, and every 50,000 years or so on a cycle, they come out and basically wipe out all organic life in the galaxy. They let civilizations build up, and then they wipe them all out and make the galaxy start over again. And bottom line is, Saren has gone rogue and attempts to be trying to contact the Reapers or to help them come back. And it's your job, obviously, to find him and stop him. Now, there's a ton more to this plot, obviously, that I don't have time in this review to say, plus I don't want to spoil anything, but there are many, many twists and turns in the plot of this game. It's very deep and rich in plot. The galaxy is very well thought out and organized, and there's tons of backstory, tons of, it's one of those worlds, it's one of those immersive worlds, where, everything just has all this backstory. Everything's explained. There's a ton of different races in the galaxy of aliens and humans, and they all have they're all their own cultures, and it's all very well detailed, and you meet tons of people along the way, and really the plot and the story of this game is amazing. But in a nutshell, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to stop Saren, whose main goal seems to be to bring back the Reapers. And but the plot, the story of the game is outstanding, all right, and it's really good. And I don't want to give too much away, but that's basically what it is. Now, the gameplay of Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a third-person shooter RPG, and the gameplay is pretty much what you would expect from an RPG. It's going to be you gain experience points. With these experience points, you can level up your character. You actually meet, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 different individuals whom you actually have a party of people with you. You can pick 2 people at a time to come with you and be your party on missions, and you can level them up with your experience. You can level up things like your proficiency in certain weapons, like shotguns and assault rifles, that kind of thing. You can level up your specific training, because you actually pick a class of person when you start the game, like an RPG, and you can level up your training in that particular class. You can level up your special abilities, and I'll get into that when I talk about combat in the game, but you can level up you and your teammates' special abilities with experience points. And yeah, similar to pretty much almost all RPGs, you have a main story quest to do, but you also have tons and tons of side quests, side content that you can do. And the game is not just open world, but actually open galaxy, because you can travel around the entire galaxy to all of these different clusters and solar systems, and there's so many planets that you can explore. The game's really open galaxy, so to speak. And and of course your side missions can range from anything like, go on this planet and wipe out this research base that an experiment went wrong, or wipe out this rogue group, or it could be one of these things that's continuous, where you need to survey a certain amount of metals, or collect a certain amount of writings, and you do this, of course, by exploring planets. And so the side missions, there's a good amount of side missions in this game, and of course there's a leveling system like all RPGs. As you gain experience, you'll level up, and complete quests, you'll level up. And so that's pretty much the RPG gameplay. Now, when you explore these planets, alright, you can go to a bunch of different solar systems, but usually there's only one planet in the solar system that you can actually land on, even though there may be multiple planets in that system. And it behooves you, and I would strongly recommend you do this, every system that you travel to, and you'll travel to a good bit just by the main story and doing side content, to check every planet. Because a lot of times, sometimes you'll check a planet and there won't be anything to do there. It'll just give you a description of the planet. That's another cool thing, is it actually gives you a full description of every planet in the game. It tells you what the environment's like on the planet, what the gravity is on the planet, the orbital period of the planet. It's pretty cool. So sometimes it'll just give you that. Other times when you click it, it'll give you the option to survey, and that's how you collect these minerals and things like that. It's one way you collect them, is by surveying planets. And if you don't check, you won't know which ones to survey. And then usually there's one in the system that the mission's on that you can actually land on. So I would check all of the planets in the game. Now, another way to collect things is there is a vehicle in this game. And when you land on a planet to explore, you have a certain map. A certain area that you can explore on the planet and can't go outside. And they'll have icons on the map that show you areas where you can pick up things like writings, or mine a certain kind of mineral on that planet. So that's another way to collect things, and those are kind of ongoing throughout the whole game. So yeah, basic RPG gameplay. There's going to be one big thing about Mass Effect is that there's a lot of very dense, detailed dialogue options, and basically it makes great use of dialogue trees, and you can have any kind of conversation really you want with anybody, just depending on your answers. And there's a good and evil kind of meter in this game. I mean, they call it Paragon and Renegade, and basically almost everything you do affects this. Basically, how you talk to people, how you have conversation with them, will either improve your Paragon or Renegade, depending on how you answer them. The actions that you do, the choices that you make. That's another big thing about Mass Effect that I'll talk about, is the choices. But the choices that you make will obviously greatly impact either your Paragon or Renegade. And so the deep dialogue trees are pretty neat, that you get to go through and learn a bunch about these characters and about the situation, and that it actually affects the gameplay. But that's something else, is the choices that you make in Mass Effect. There's going to be a ton of choices that you need to make that will significantly impact the game. And they could be very small. They could be, okay, these terrorists have captured a bunch of hostages and infected them with a drug that make them crazy. So when you go in there to kill the terrorists, they'll be running around getting in your line of fire. So you can choose to either just go in there and start shooting and mowing everything down, and if the civilians get in your way, oh well, they're crazy anyway, or kill the terrorists and do your best to not hit the civilians when they run in your line of fire and save them. And then obviously if you kill the civilians, that's Renegade. If you save them, Paragon. So it could be simple choices like that. It could be choices where you need to decide whether or not to eliminate an entire species from the galaxy. It could be choices about, to save or let one of your partners actually die. So there's some simple choices, and then there's some heavy choices in the game that you will make, and they all affect your Paragon and Renegade, and also, obviously the ending of the game and how the game progresses from there. So typical RPG, but it goes deeper than that. I think it's a deeper experience than your usual RPG. RPGs do have dialogue, options and decisions, but I think this game goes very deep with it as far as how much it impacts the gameplay. So that's pretty much the RPG gameplay, and the choices that you make don't only affect this game, but actually you can import your data to the other Mass Effect. So you can import your data from this game into Mass Effect 2, and then from there into Mass Effect 3, and the choices that you make in this game will ultimately affect the ending of Mass Effect 3 later down the line. So basically all three Mass Effects are like one huge game, really, when you think about it, because the choices that you make in the earlier games, like this one, will affect the final game. So that's pretty freaking neat, and I'm not sure of many other games that do that. So that's really awesome. So that's the RPG element. Now, the combat in the game. Two forms of combat. You have your normal, you're on the ground with your weapon in your hand combat, and then vehicle, put weird emphasis on that word, vehicle combat and driving around. So I'll explain both of those. So first of all, the normal combat on the ground. Like I said, you'll have two teammates with you, and each of the teammates specializes usually in something different, or different combinations. So you'll have one partner or a couple who are really good at just being a soldier, at fighting. They'll have very high stats as being a soldier. You may have another partner who's very good with tech skills, which basically allow you to use tech abilities to hack and do those kind of things. And then you'll have people who are good with biotic abilities, which basically allow them to use a bunch of biotic powers efficiently. And there's many weapons in the game that you can find. You'll spend a lot of your time walking around collecting weapons out of things that you have to play a very annoying mini-game for, like you do with pretty much everything in the game. You have to play the same mini-game to do everything, to unlock a crate, to mine minerals, to recover an artifact, and the mini-game is simply quick time events where they put all four Xbox buttons on the screen, and they'll light up the Xbox buttons, and you have to, it's a quick time event, and do it in a certain amount of time to complete the minigame and unlock the crate, which is really annoying, but we'll get to that. But there's a bunch of weapons to find. You will spend a lot of time in menus in this game, like kind of a more traditional RPG, comparing stats, looking at things, and that can be kind of burdensome in the beginning, but if you get used to it toward the end, it's not that bad, but you will be spending a lot of time comparing because there's not a comparison when you're looking at something. You have to actually pick something up, go into the menu, and then compare it, which is pretty annoying. But you'll be picking up a bunch of different weapons to use, and different partners will be good at different weapons. I had one guy who was basically a tank, and I gave him a shotgun. He was really good with the shotgun, and then I had another guy who was decently good at tech and biotic abilities, and he had a sniper rifle, and by the end of the game he was a beast with the sniper rifle. So that's pretty neat, and then of course you can customize your character however you want. And the combat is that kind of combat is basic third-person shooter, over-the-shoulder combat. Now with the abilities, like I said, with the tech and biotic abilities, you can actually use certain abilities, and some of these abilities, like biotic abilities, include putting up a shield in front of you to protect yourself for a certain amount of time, or doing a biotic lift and lifting somebody off the ground to either freeze them in the air to shoot and kill them, or slam them on the ground. Tech abilities can be things like overloading enemies' weapons and things like that so that they don't work for a certain amount of time. And then you have normal abilities like, boost shields, boost your health or something like that, or an ability that revives your teammate if they're down. You can revive them instantly. And these basically you don't unlock, you just level them up as you, and they're based on your teammates, what kind of character they are, what kind of abilities they have, and you level them up by leveling your character up. So that's basically the ground-based combat. You cannot pick up enemies' weapons or anything like that. When you kill an enemy, sometimes you just acquire their weapon somehow. But that's the deal with that. And then the vehicle combat, this is where I need to talk a little bit, okay? This is by far and large the most annoying thing about the game, is the Mako, which is the vehicle you have, alright? First of all, this thing is ridiculously clumsy and does not work well with driving controls. The driving controls on this thing is balls, and it's very difficult to drive and maneuver this thing. And when you're in combat with it, the problem is that the target reticle is glued to the center of the screen. It doesn't actually follow where you're aiming. So basically the game assumes that you're on a completely flat level surface for that reticle to actually work properly. If you're not, if you're on an incline, or if you're off center by any means, the reticle is completely useless because it's glued to the middle of the screen and doesn't move. So there were many times where I was trying to fight enemies, and I would be up on a cliff or something, and I'd have the reticle pointed at the enemies and shoot, and the shot wouldn't even be close because the reticle is incorrect. Sorry, that's my phone. The reticle is incorrect, and it's highly annoying. Now, why they couldn't have the reticle actually follow where you're aiming, I really don't have any idea. And maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal if the thing wasn't so damn hard to control. And the problem is that sometimes you'll get stuck in a battle and you won't be able to control the thing, and it'll be backing up or running into a wall or something, and you just get raped by the enemy because you can't control the thing, and it's highly annoying. And sometimes you want to sit on a cliff and pick off the enemies, but you can't because you can't really aim it. So you have to go down where they are on a flat surface to aim, and then you're stuck in there and you just get raped. And the repairing is annoying because you have this stuff called Omni-Gel, and basically you either find it or you can convert items you pick up into Omni-Gel, and that repairs the Mako. But the thing about that is that when you repair it, the whole thing shuts down. The Mako completely stalls. You cannot move, you can't use any weapons while it's repairing, and it takes probably a good 5 to 7 seconds to actually finish its repair, if not longer. And unless you level up the repair, it doesn't even help you very much. You have a shield on the Mako and then your health, and that's the only way to get your health back, is to repair it, and it's highly annoying. And that was the most frustrated I got with this game, was just trying to do combat and stuff in that vehicle. It was very annoying. And then of course when you're on the planets looking for minerals and stuff to mine, you have to drive the Mako all over, and since it's so difficult to control, there's mountains on pretty much every planet. Every planet has mountains, and the stuff you need is either over the mountain or in the mountain, so you have to try to get the Mako up the mountain and see if you can make it, and if you don't, you stall out and roll back down the mountain. and the controls are horrible, and it's stupid because if you're driving along and you hit like a tree, like a little bitty tree branch in the road, instead of just bumping over it and continue, when you hit the tree branch, it's like hitting a brick wall. You'll hit the tree branch and go woo, and you just fly up in the air and slam the ground for this little bitty tree root or something instead of just bumping over it. It's very annoying, and that car sucks. Okay, it sucks. So yeah, that's the Mako combat. Very aggravating and annoying, and you're probably going to hate it because it's just annoying. Alright? So that's basically the combat, and that's bottom line Mass Effect. So, the things I like about Mass Effect. First of all, like I said, the story is outstanding. The story is really good. The whole environment is completely immersive. The ability to go throughout the entire galaxy is awesome, to learn all this stuff about all the alien races, about, you know, just the twists and turns that the story takes, the game takes. You can actually choose to have romantic relationships with some of your partners. The way that all your decisions, impact the ending of the game and impact games in the future. And for an RPG, it's just really, really well done, and way ahead of its time when it came out in 2007, I think. And it's a great story, great atmosphere, and I loved it. So yeah, pretty much most of the things I loved about the game. Now, for the things I didn't like about the game, the repetitive mini games, okay, to unlock everything was really boring and just not necessary. All right, anything involving the Mako was fucking just aggravating as hell. That was just really, it was poorly designed. It's poorly designed, poorly programmed for the car. It was. And one thing I didn't mention was actually the fact that you cannot, and I don't know what other RPGs do this, but you cannot actually set a main objective. You cannot set a main quest. So very often, and you know when you set a main quest in things like Skyrim or Fallout or anything like that, it gives you an objective arrow of where to go. And if you're in a building and you need to get somewhere else, it'll give you an objective arrow to the door of that building. Then you can go that arrow, get out of that building, and it'll give you another arrow on your map. Well, this game doesn't do that. And many times, you get very lost and confused as to where you're going because you cannot set an active quest. You just have to read the description to figure out where to go. And sometimes it's not that big of a deal if it just tells you to go to a certain cluster, but if you're in, say, something like the Citadel, which has many levels and vast, sprawling, basically government place of the galaxy, it can be very confusing to figure out where the hell you're supposed to go, and the game does a really bad job, in my opinion, of telling you where to go. And that was really annoying. I eventually got used to it and got better at finding where the game wanted me to go, but in the beginning, it was a big turnoff. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that you can't set an active quest. I thought that the game did have some frame rate issues. Now I don't know if that was because of the age of the game or because I installed it to my Xbox or whatever, but it had frame rate issues to where if there was a lot of stuff going on the screen, the frame rates would go in the toilet, and it would be a pain in the ass and you couldn't really see what was going on. So that was aggravating. And, some nitpicks like that. But other than those things, if you can get over the frustrations and annoyances of the game, I guess because it came out in 2007, the game is a very good game. And there's a lot of content here. I played the game for over 20 hours. I think I had like 22 hours in and did a lot. But you can actually go play the game again with a New Game Plus mode that keeps all of your stuff. And so you can level up even more, all the way to level 60. I got to like level 44, I think, and get even better weapons and stuff. So there's a lot of replayability, and obviously you can play the game. You can go back and play the game as a renegade if you or Paragon. You can get the different endings. So there's a lot of good stuff here. It's a good game, despite its annoyances, and it does have annoyances, but overall, it's a great game. So for Mass Effect, I'm going to give it 2 ratings that probably aren't going to be very different, but I'll kind of explain it. Alright, so for Mass Effect, for a game, if I was looking at this game compared to games like today, which it may be unfair, but this game was actually so good that it could have come out in this time period and still been a great game. So of all games that I play, I give Mass Effect an 8.5. If it was released in 2012, I would give this game an 8.5 because it's way better than most of the stuff I've played recently that came out in 2011 and 2012. So this game's a lot better than anything that's come out in 2012 so far in March, I can tell you that. So if it came out today, it gets an 8.5. Now, I didn't play this back in 2007, but probably in 2007 this game probably would get like a 9 for a game being out in 2007, because a lot of the annoyances would probably be accepted a little bit more. But considering the fact that this game has so much content, the graphics are actually pretty good in this game, considering it came out 5 years ago, and the amount of content stuff in this game back then probably would have given this game a 9. So tough to rate a game like this, obviously 5 years after. Like I said, this review is not really so much about ratings, it's just more about thoughts and explaining the game. So I really liked it. I really enjoyed Mass Effect. I had a lot of fun after I got past the annoyances of the game, and what I'm assuming and hoping that is in Mass Effect 2 and 3 that they continue to improve, take the annoyances out of the game and make it more fun. And I hope I never ever have to see another Mako in my life, because I really legitimately hated that thing. But I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait. I already own Mass Effect 2. I'm going to jump in, play Mass Effect 2 soon, so that I can be ready to do a Mass Effect 3 playthrough for you guys during the summer. So, really enjoyed Mass Effect 1. I think if you're thinking about getting the game, you should get it and start with the first one. Don't just jump into the third. And for those of you who have already played Mass Effect and wanted to hear my thoughts on the game, there you go. So, I'm Voodoo51292. Thanks for watching this review. And when I beat Mass Effect 2, I'll probably do a review of that game as well. Why not? So, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.